Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Secrets for an Inspirational Life. How are you all today? How are you in the part of the world that you're abiding in at the moment? I know it's all a bit sort of, chaotic, it seems at times, but in actual fact, everything is going according to the divine plan, as I call it, because I really do believe that every single thing that we do is not a coincidence. We are where we are meant to be at any given time, and also with the people that we meet and that we speak to and that we share our time with is definitely those people that we are meant to meet along the way. And sometimes I know it's difficult. I speak also from experience that some of the people that come into our lives are more like lessons than blessings. But actually, in fact, when the circle goes around and is infinite, there are lessons and there are infinite blessings in every person we meet, and actually in every experience that comes into our life. Whether we can see that with these human eyes or not. And that's something that's really interesting, which is that there are so many more worlds out there than we could ever imagine. We ourselves are many universes that we have yet to discover. So there are so many universes and worlds out there for us to discover and be part of. And this huge awakening and lifting of spirits that's going on now is preparing us for that which we have promised to do long before eternity. So I have the absolutely delightful pleasure to welcome my guest today, who is Adrian Greatbear. Now, Adrian is a shamanic practitioner, a healer, and a teacher. And I have to say, I'm so excited about having him on today. And, I say this about my guests, but especially today, because he is someone who is actually part of all of these different universes and is actually awake to that. Now, at a very young age, Adrian experienced encounters with the spirit world. At the age of 16, he suffered from what the shamans call shamanic sickness. Unable to understand what was happening to him at the age of 25, Adrian eventually sought out the help of a shaman. He met his first teacher and began his journey into the world of spirit. Adrian wished to expand his knowledge furthermore, and at the age of 30, he trained under his second teacher, who taught him the ancient knowledge, which is secret, I think, to a lot of people. People don't realize this, but this sort of knowledge is quite a hidden thing, and that is of the Siberian Shamans. He feels passionate about the ancient shamanic practices, philosophies, and their ability to heal individually and collectively, which is something that we all need right now. Adrian's vision is to help bring the ancient knowledge of the shamans to the Western world, in fact, and to our minds and our souls in a way that is easy to understand, to inspire others and help individuals come back into harmony and balance within themselves. Today, he shares his fascinating journey. Welcome, dear Adrian.
Hello, thank you for such a beautiful introduction.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very, very good, thank you. I'm very well, and I'm blessed to be here talking to you. I'm really grateful and thankful for that.
Oh, thank you. And it's a blessing to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, your story is so intricate, and I know that every single person, has a story to tell. And that's what the beauty and magic of life is. But there are some stories equally that are more fascinating in some ways than others. And yours is one of them, Adrian. Now, tell us, let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what you actually do and how it all started.
Okay, so I call myself a shaman, and what a shaman is, in simple terms, is a healer. And our job is to help people that are sick and to help raise their vibration. So if we go back into, you know, thousands of years ago, before we had modern doctors and modern medicine, we had the shaman. And the shaman was pretty much the doctor of the tribe. And he looks at everything as spiritual in nature. So if you come to me and you're sick, we deal with the spiritual problem first, and heal you in that way. And there's different shamans. There's some shamans that work mainly with plants and herbs, and some shamans that work with trance. But ultimately, a shaman is a healer, someone who wants to help heal the sick and raise that person's vibration. So that's the simplest way of putting it. Now, a shaman does also have other abilities, such as prophecy, being able to prophesize, and kind of seeing the bigger picture of what's going on, not only with the individual, but as a collective. So a shaman is extremely connected with nature and the world, and can see where we're heading, where we're going, and yeah, so forth.
Now, your journey started, was it at the age of 16, or was it prior to that?
So for me, first of all, I was brought up, and my mum was very psychic. She would often tell me and my sister dreams that she had, and these dreams would come true. You know, she'd come back the same day and say, "I can't believe it come true." And she's a very, very spiritual woman. And my uncle was also a Reiki master. I didn't know my uncle much, but he was a Reiki master. My great aunt used to do seances.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I only found this out 3 years ago about my great aunt, and my great nan was a tarot card reader. So it was definitely in the blood. I don't really know my roots. I know I've got Irish in me, but because of my granddad, he was adopted, so we don't really know who his dad was, his real dad. So I don't really know where my roots go, back. But it's that spiritual side, that mystical side, that, connection with the spirit world is in my family. Now, as a kid, I would have terrifying visions, absolutely terrifying visions of what can only be described as sort of spirits. I'd have experiences like waking up and feeling like I'd been out of my body, like I'd been somewhere else entirely. And I can even remember now, like, what this place looked like. And the reason why I'm saying this is because later on, when I started the shamanic path, I then revisited those places. I remember feeling like inanimate objects weren't inanimate, they were animate, they were alive, they were conscious. So I was definitely different, to say the least, as a kid, as a little boy. But I would often have, very, very vivid dreams and not be able to let go of those dreams either. So the next day it would be, really on my mind, and I knew there was information there, and I'd always be trying to get this information out of the dream that I just had, or I couldn't just leave it. You know, most people are like, okay, it's just a dream, but for me, I knew there was more to it. I knew there was something going on. Like, you know, as we know now, we know that dreams are symbols, and those symbols are actually trying to teach us. It's our unconscious communicating with our conscious. So I kind of naturally, I suppose, you know, I naturally was connected to something that most people wasn't. And at the age of 16 is when I really suffered from the shamanic sickness. Now, the shamanic sickness is no joke. It comes in three ways. You've got the path of ordeals, which is where the person experiences near-death experiences, like constantly. Mm-hmm. You've got the path of madness, which is where the person basically suffers from like a psychotic break, a meltdown, a breakdown. The West would call it like, you know, type of psychosis, a breakdown, a mental breakdown.
Like a nervous breakdown. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you've got the path of illness, which is where the person is got like a serious life-threatening illness, so where they're constantly ill. So you've got the path of ordeals, which is near-death experiences, path of madness, which is where the person basically, you know, feels like they're going crazy, and the path of illness, where the person is constantly ill. And these are seen as hallmarks of the shamanic sickness. Now, obviously in the West, we don't have much information on the shaman and the philosophies. So for me, what I really needed at 16 was a shaman. I needed someone to be like, okay, I know what's going on with this person. And basically what happened to me is I had this dream, and it was a very, very vivid dream. And the shamans say that you will be initiated into the spirit world, and it's usually not a nice experience. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for me, I had this dream, and it was of this, it was this beautiful woman. She was all in white. She had long red hair, and I was in the dark, and she pointed to her wrist to say it's time. And I went up. I was like on like a cart, and I went up, 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 up. And I stepped through an invisible veil. Like there was nothing there, but I felt like I'd stepped through something. And then I basically experienced death in the dream. And I woke up, and I was sweating, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified, because I felt like I had died. And then from that point, everything basically went downhill for me. Now, what this is it's almost like a descent into the underworld. Yeah. So the shamans, we talk about 3 different worlds, or 4 different worlds, but one of these worlds is the underworld, and this is where all the suffering is. This is where depression comes from. This is from where sickness comes from. This is, you know, all those horrible spirits. And when I talk about spirits, you've got to remember we're talking about the non-physical. So I'm talking about emotions and feelings. I just want to make that clear, because I'm not talking about ghostly apparitions. I'm talking about that which is non-physical. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when shamans talk about the spirits, it was a way to talk about your emotions and your feelings. So, for instance, if someone came into the tribe and they was angry, the shaman would say, okay, he's got bad spirits in him. Yeah. And what he's really saying is saying that person is carrying negative emotion. Yeah. And we need to exercise that. We need to get that out, because that's going to spread.
But there are such things, aren't there, as negative spirits and positive spirits of not just emotion.
Well, as in apparitions, as in, like, I mean, as far as I can tell with the shamanic knowledge, there's what happens is when you have negative emotions, negative feelings, it creates an image in the dream body. Now, the dream body is another name for visualization. Yeah. So this is why people would come to me and say, I'm in a dark place, even though it's sunny outside. I'm in a dark, dark place. I feel trapped, even though they're not trapped. In the physical world, they're not trapped. But in the visualization, in the dream body, shamans call the visualization dream body, they're getting these images come up in their mind and they're describing a place. Yeah. So every emotion and feeling has a reflection in the dream body. Are you following me?
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, it has a reflection in the dream body. Now, the dream body is taken as serious. It's taken as real as this physical reality. It's not seen as just sort of imagination. It's taken like seriously. And that dream body, whether or not it exists independently on its own, is a question to be asked, really, because if you've ever done visionary plants or something like that, it seems like that place does actually exist independently of the physical world. Shamans believe that this is a dream. So you have the physical world is the hard dream, and your visualization, that's the dream body. Yeah. And what happens in the dream body eventually manifests into the hard dream. And so your visualization is actually a tool. It's a tool to be able to manifest and create things and heal yourself as well, essentially. Heal yourself. Now, I've had people come to me and say, they feel like there's a negative spirit around them. They feel like there's darkness around them. There's and obviously these are reflections. These images are reflections of the feelings that they're having. And the idea really is that we're kind of just a vessel, and actually that the feelings and the emotions, the spirits, they kind of animate us. So we're kind of like a mask, and these spirits, these emotions and feelings, they're the things that animate us, but actually they are kind of, in a way, they are these energetic beings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like the spirit of love, so you can choose to call that in. You can call in the spirit of love. You can close your eyes and you can call in the spirit of love, and you'll get an image come into the dream body that represents the spirit of love, and then you can work with that. But whether or not, I'm not confident enough to say that spirits, like ghostly apparitions, are around us. I'm not confident enough to say that. I keep an open mind. Yeah. But I'm not confident enough to say that. I mean, we are taught that, you can become a lost soul. That is to say, like, when you die and you haven't gone through the proper process of death, and there is a process. You forgive everyone. You die with gratitude in your heart, and then there's a moment where you have to die really consciously, otherwise you can get trapped and you can become a lost soul. Now, I have had strange experiences. So yeah, perhaps lost souls, but I think whether or not there's actual negative spirits, as in like deceased people, like lurking around, I'm not too sure if I don't know where I sit with that at the moment. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think also it depends on what one person has experienced in their life. So if I've experienced one thing and I've sat with elves and things, and I can then, reassure people there's definitely elves that exist. Let's take it to the extreme of people's imagination, or unicorns and things like that. But someone who has never experienced that may not believe it, but that doesn't mean it's not real. But I 1000% believe we're not the only creation that exists. And there's, not only sort of the animal and the plant kingdoms, I think there's other parallel worlds and beings, I suppose, that live
I
in
agree.
different worlds, and hence all the fairy tales and all the tales and of the ancients, and because they are very real.
Yeah, I agree with that. From a shamanic perspective, what goes on in the imagination isn't seen as not real. It's seen as real, like it's treated as real. So in like certain tribes, it wouldn't be far off to say if someone said, "Oh, I rode on a dragon today," and they said, "Oh, wow, amazing," even if it just happened in the dream body. So there wasn't like this separation like there is with us, like sort of like, okay, if you can't see it in the here and now, touch it, taste it, smell it doesn't exist, right? Whereas we know that when we close our eyes and we use the dream body, we can touch, taste, and smell anything. Yeah, you can close your eyes, you can visualize a rose, and you can visualize the way it feels, and you can smell it, and then you can change the object. You can take an apple in your mind's eye, and you can bite into it, and you can taste it, right? So where is that? And you can feel, and this is also the secret to healing yourself. This isn't just make believe, it's a tool that you can actually heal your. And the shamans knew this. The shamans understood that actually, using the dream body, the visualization, you can heal yourself. You can literally heal yourself. You can go from feeling like depressed to flying to feeling amazing.
That's something that's very interesting, and I think that's something that has fascinated mankind, is this process of healing, because that's also something that you do, isn't it, Adrian?
Yes, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically what happened to me is I ended up really unwell. I ended up, sick and depressed and, feeling suicidal. And basically I was in what the shamans would call the underworld. And,
is this part of the shamanic sickness? Sorry, is this part of the shamanic sickness? Is the shamanic sickness that you spoke about, which were 3 types? Am I correct?
There's 3 types. Yeah.
Do people that go through this calling have to have all 3? Or it could be any of those 3?
No. You could have any of those 3, or you might not even have it. I know shamans that didn't go through that, but it's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because when you heal people, you can truly empathize with them because you've been there. Yeah, and this is you've been there and you've healed yourself, so you're the wounded healer, right? So if someone comes to me and says, "I'm feeling suicidal," I can say, I know what that feels like. I've been there. So I know that place that they're in, so I can really connect with them. Like really, really connect with them on a deep, deep level. Obviously, if you compare that to kind of therapy that you have in the so-called West, and you've got somewhere sitting there with a clipboard and they're just they've got, they're looking at you and they're saying, "Oh, this is what's wrong with you. You need to take these pharmaceutical drugs." Very, very different. Very, very different. If someone comes in, the way the healing is done is it's very symbolic, and it's so beautiful. It's amazing. I take everyone out in nature because nature is the best decoration, and nature heals. It is healing in itself. When you go for a walk in nature, you've got aromatherapy, color therapy, sound therapy. And nature naturally raises your vibration. And the healing that we do is very symbolic as shamans, and the reason for that is because the unconscious mind, if you want to talk in Western terms, the unconscious mind understands symbols. Yeah, so it understands symbols. It's like you're able to access the unconscious through a symbolic way. So stuff like working with the fire, the fire is a universal element, and when you sit in front of the fire, it pretty much has the same effect on everybody. You sort of become entranced by it and really start to connect with it and feel it, working with you, and so it has this kind of universal appeal to anyone, and that's why I think a lot of people, they find the shamanic healing amazing, because they're just like, wow, because it's connecting with you on such a deep level. It's kind of it's ingrained in you. Even the sound of the drum and the rattle, it's like it resonates with you, and you're like, oh yeah, I can feel this. I feel like I felt this before, and so yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. So basically, my job is to basically take people out of the underworld and bring them back into the present. The underworld is also the world of the past, and when we're depressed, and we're in a really bad way, usually 9 times out of 10 it's because we are lost in the past. The past has got hold of us, and this can happen from trauma. If you've had a traumatic experience, that takes a part of you, because you're then, rather than you have experiences every day, and if everything's good, you don't cling on to them. But when something's traumatic, it almost takes a part of you. It takes a part of your attention away. So anything traumatic can cause our soul, so to speak, to be lost in the past. So the underworld is we talk about the underworld as being very highly connected to the past. And then you have the middle world, which is the present. And that's where everything's okay. Everything's okay here in the middle world. Yeah, there's love, there's happiness, there's safety, there's harmony, and we connect that with Mother Earth, and that's the present. And as you know for yourself, there's nothing ever wrong in the present. If you're fully present, everything's okay. That's why we do meditation, right?
Mm-hmm. But there's something that there's lots of things I want to ask you. I've got to start somewhere. Now, firstly, I want to ask you is, Adrian, why, I say shamanism, whatever you want to call it, why was that the path that you chose? Or was it that was the path that chose you?
I feel like that was the path that chose me, 100%. It was a deep call. And I'll tell you how it happened. I saw there was a documentary on TV, and I was 25 years old, and I'd been suffering all this time, and I was basically sitting in the underworld, what you call the underworld. And I saw this documentary about the Amazonian shamans, and they started talking about how everything has a spirit, and something, just my heart just said, I know there's truth in that. I feel that to be true. I feel that. And so I said to my girlfriend at the time, I'm going to have to go to the Amazon jungle. I'm going to have to go and she's thinking I'm crazy, because she was a teacher, so she's very logical minded. She's like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to have to go. I've got to go. There's something that's telling me that I'm being called to this. I need to go to the Amazon. This word shaman, there's something about it. And turned out that I didn't even have to go to the Amazon jungle. And this is when we talk about the universe coming to your assistance, because I was getting a sports massage at the time. I was training at a gym called Fitness First, and I was getting a sports massage, and Michelle, her name was, she said, oh, I went to see this is within a week of knowing that I needed to get to the jungle. She said, oh, I saw a shaman the other day. My eyes lit up, and I went,
as you do.
What? Yeah. She went, yeah, I saw a shaman. I said, what? And I hadn't told her anything. I hadn't told her that, I felt this calling. She went, yeah, he's local. And I was like, oh my God, can I have his number? She went, yeah, of course. And that was it. And I rang him up, and I went down to see him, and he had trained under a lady called Sky, and she had trained under a guy called Don Manoa in the Amazon rainforest. So it was all there, and and I begun training with him. And as soon as I picked up that rattle, I knew I was home. I was like, this is it. I've arrived. It was almost like retrieving my tools back. I know it sounds really strange, but I'd never. And that night, I went home with my rattle, and my teacher, he didn't tell me anything. He just gave me a rattle, and I went home and I sat down and I just closed my eyes. I just began rattling, and as I began rattling, I felt this energy begin to build up. And even now, I'm smiling because. So I start to feel this energy, and it's ecstatic. I mean, it is like a feeling of ecstasy rising up from within you. And before I know it, I'm rattling like a madman. My rattle is, and it's almost like it's got a mind of its own. Like it feels like it's no longer me holding the rattle, and it is just doing its own thing. It's just moving all around my body. And so basically what I did is I went into trance. I went into a deep, deep trance and experienced ecstasy, because that's another part of shamans is to experience ecstasy without drugs, naturally. And I remember I dropped the rattle. I text my dad. I said, Dad, I've just had this amazing experience with the rattle. They probably thought, what the hell was he going on about? I was like, it was amazing. I just had this, and I just basically I experienced pure ecstasy. Just from rattling. And so I knew, I was like, wow, okay, yeah, this is powerful stuff. This is really, really powerful stuff, because we forget that actually that is an experience that we are entitled to experience ecstasy naturally. Our bodies have the ability to experience ecstasy, and if you haven't felt ecstasy in a long time, it's incredible. You forget that you can feel that good. And that was just through using a rattle. And actually, talking about the rattle, so they say the rattle warns off evil spirits, and babies today have rattles, and actually it comes from ancient shamanic cultures, and that is why we still give today. We still give babies rattles, because it comforts.
That's interesting. Yeah,
it comforts you. It gets rid of negative feelings. It gets rid of negative. And you rattle, and it's comforting, and it gets rid of negative feelings within your body, spirits. It gets rid of them.
Because sound has as we were saying earlier, you and I, before we came on, sound and music has a great power to transform, us as individuals and us collectively. Yeah,
so if you think in terms of, I suppose, vibration and frequency, even feelings have, and emotions have a certain frequency. And so certain sounds will clear that. It's almost like it clears it out of your body. Very
true.
And
you do vibrational medicine, Adrian? Do you do like sound forks and things like that?
I haven't. I've seen them. I've seen someone use them. I've got a rattle, a drum. I've got dancing bells that go around my ankles. Now this is if I want to enter deep, deep trance. And so earlier I spoke about how we have this dream body, and then we have the physical. So in other words, when you're driving, you can be driving and you can drive an hour and go, where was I? I don't even remember getting here.
Yeah. A lot of people have that. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's because you're going into the dream body. Yeah, you're detaching from the physical world, and you're kind of, so you're in that dream body. Yeah, and I mean, you might be thinking of the past is also in the dream body as well. The future's in the dream body, and so you go off. Right. And we seek trance when we're having too much physical stress. And this is why people go home and they put TV on and they enter a trance state. And something could happen around them and they wouldn't even be aware of it because they're so zoned out that they're unaware. So trance is a very natural thing. Like, we naturally seek trance, especially if we're suffering from a lot of stress. And alcohol is another, it's kind of what people say, oh, you're trying to escape. And well, they're right, because you're trying to sort of go off into the dream body a little bit and detach from the physical world. So these are obviously, there's healthy ways of trance and there's unhealthy ways of trance. And sort of the unhealthy way is through drugs, through alcohol, cigarettes, watching too much TV. And the reason it's unhealthy is because it takes something from you. So it ends up being negative in a sense. Hence, if you go out and you have loads of drinks, the next day you have to pay back. You've got a hangover. Yeah, and we say that's almost like Erlich, the big spirit Erlich of the underworld. Sort of, you have to pay me back. I'll give you this, but you've got to pay me back. So
that's an interesting way to look at it, actually.
Yeah, so it's like you build up a debt. It's like, okay, I'll give you this, but I'm going to want something back in return. Yeah, and it could be just watching too much TV and not being productive. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you can do that, but you're going to pay for it in the end, and eventually you do, right?
So yeah, I mean, I have to say, it is an interesting way to look at it, and it holds much sense, Adrian, what you're saying, because at the end of the day, every action that we do has some form of payback, whether good or bad.
Yeah. So
that's a tricky one. It's tricky, isn't it? Because then you have to be consistently, I think this is like all these people, isn't it? They have to be in consistent balance and equilibrium. Because if you tilt one way too much, it affects us if we tilt another way too much. So I think it's about gaining a balance.
Yeah, an awareness. And ultimately what you're looking for harmony. And all I see harmony is just tweaking things that are negative to positive. So if you've got somebody you need to call, a friend that you haven't spoke to for a while, like you think, okay, it's on the back of your mind, and you think, I really need to call that person. And all you've got to do is just tweak it. Just give them a call, and then you're coming back into harmony again, or food, or whatever it is, different relationships, food. It's just tweaking it so that you're back into harmony, so that a little bit of negative, you turn it into a positive, and slowly but surely, that starts to just change your world. So so going back to trance, so we seek trance. We always seek trance, like we do that naturally, and there is a way to enter trance. It takes a little bit of energy, because anything worthwhile takes energy, right? Anything worthwhile takes effort. When we drink, we're going back to the alcohol. When we drink alcohol, it's effortless. So we're receiving joy. We don't have to put much energy into getting it. But anything worthwhile, you have to put some energy into it. So by putting energy into the trance, you can experience this connection with the spirit of ecstasy, which is one of the highest spirits or vibrations, or whatever you want to call it. And that's why you would see lots of tribal people dancing around the fire, like maniacs. They dance for hours. And actually what they're doing is they're looking to connect with that spirit of ecstasy. And if you put enough energy into it, you can. And you can get that through drumming, through rattling, and and just different things. But most people don't realize that, that is something that you can experience and you can actually consciously connect with. So breathwork's another really powerful way as well.
Yeah.
Through breath work, you can really connect with the spirit of ecstasy, and by connecting with the spirit of ecstasy, it pretty much heals your body.
Now, we as people are souls, we are spirit.
Mm-hmm.
We're occupying this body, for a short while. It doesn't matter if it's 10, 20, 50 or 100 years. It is, it's temporary. So we as souls and spirits are a huge force to be reckoned with. And as you said, we need that time to switch off. Is that, do you think, Adrian, or where you're actually reconnecting back to your spirit and where these trance-like states, because, I've been with many sort of healers and dance around fires and all sorts of things where people try to connect with chanting and whatever it may be. Is this all something that is part of this great desire and longing to connect back with our own soul?
I believe so. Yes. I mean, in a lot of shamanic traditions, they believe in reincarnation, and they believe that your soul is made out of many parts. It's made out of your memories. It's made out of your destiny. It's made out of your personal power, and those parts go back to where they come from, and then you're left with what you call the IE, which is the pure awareness, and that's the real you. So it's like the witness behind the whole experience, if you know what I mean. We have different thoughts, we have different feelings throughout our life, but when we when we believe that we're those thoughts and those feelings, we're actually disconnected, because what we really are is we're that witness that's experiencing it all. Does that make sense? And that's the real part of your soul. And they believe that it goes up to the Milky Way, and then it goes to a place called Tengri, which is basically place of pure rest, pure relaxation, pure rest, and then you're reincarnated again. And you experience this every night you go to sleep. Every night you go to sleep, you dream. You go into the dream body. There's a part where you dream, and then there's a blank bit, and that blank space is a vast ocean, and it's timeless. And so you go to sleep, you wake up. You don't know what time you went to sleep. You don't know what time you woke up. And I say to you, how long have you been asleep for? You haven't got a clue, because you've been to this place that's timeless, and you cease to exist. Like every night, every single one of us, when we go to bed, there's a moment where we cease to exist entirely. Yeah, that's that blank bit. It's timeless.
How do you mean we cease to exist?
Well, so when you go to sleep, your soul, the you, the person that you identify with, the you, the I am Adrian, I am the I. So you go to sleep, and there's a blank part. There's a part that's completely blank. Yeah, and you can be in that place for 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, and you don't even know how long you've been there, and unless you look when you wake up the next day and say, "Oh, I went to bed at 10 and I got up at 8." And it's the place that's timeless, and it's like a vast ocean, and it's just timeless. It's just, and that is where you just cease to exist, so to speak. The I. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, cease to exist. I understand that this physical body is ego-driven, because in order for us to be upon this earth, we have to have an ego. If we, because we have to eat, we have to, drink and all of that and do the human things. And that's something that's governed by the ego. Because if we didn't have an ego, we could be an angelic form. But with the soul, this idea that, so what you're saying is in the tradition of the shamans is that you go to a place as a soul.
Yeah, in the Altai tradition. So they look at reincarnation as a thing that happens physically in our lives, and there's a thing that happens after we die. Yeah. So we're reincarnated all the time, like during our lives, because you're not the same person you was 10 years ago. You're a completely different person, right? Things change, and so you have little mini deaths and rebirths. It's not the emotions, it's not the labels, it's just like the witness. It's nameless. You can't really label it anything because you just can't. They believe that when we die, it travels through the Milky Way and then to a place which is just blank. And then when it's ready, your mother animal, power animal, will take it to the nest, and then you'll be put in a new body. You'll get a new memory. You'll get a new destiny. You get a new personal power, which comes from your family. It's kind of the influence from your family, and then you're born again, and it just goes round and round and round. I mean, whether or not.
So it's never ending or beginning. It's a constant,
never ending or beginning. So it's like, and when you think about it, because when you think, who am I? I'm not my thoughts, because my thoughts change all the time. I'm not my emotions, because they change all the time. My memory fades away eventually. My destiny, wherever my destiny was in this life, well, that gets fulfilled. So you take away all those parts, the only part of you that's left is that silent witness, almost like that energy that's always been there, that has no name. And so, and they say when we go to sleep, we kind of visit that world, the world of Tengu, when we kind of have a glimpse of it. And it's, you go to bed, there's a part where you dream. Yeah, usually like you might have some dreams, but for the rest of the night, it's just blank. It's just non-attachment, just blank. And then you wake up again. And if you imagine that blank space was, I don't know, 200 years, you wouldn't know, because it's timeless when you're there. And then you're given a new body, you're given a new memory, you're given a new destiny, and you're reincarnated as someone new.
That's a mind-blowing concept, actually.
I know, it's really hard to get your head around. I do get it. A lot of the shamans,
I mean, I understand what you're saying. What you're saying. But I have to ask you, pause that thought there, because as you and I have both, I'm sure, met many people who are in the sort of healing arts and all sorts of things that happen, that sort of connect us back to who we really are. Who are we really? I read this book, I can't remember who it was by, and it's like, who am I? And this is the whole thing. I think the madness of this world at the moment is that hardly anybody is remembering who they really are. Because when you look at the wise people, the sages, the holy masters out there, the really enlightened beings, they are actually, as you said, timeless. They can move beyond time and space. They can be in 40,000 places just in the blink of an eye. So there must be a level of spirituality that allows us to disconnect, whether that be through trance or prayer or meditation, disconnect to the physical, and actually, while we are awake, enter into that ocean, which is timeless.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you absolutely can. You can connect with that vibration. It's the highest vibration. So we got the underworld, which is the lowest vibration. We've got the middle world, which is Mother Earth, nature. Okay, that's a much higher vibration in the underworld. It's the opposite to the underworld. So rather than being depressed, you're happy. Yeah, rather than being sad, you're joyful. So that's the middle world. The upper world is the creation. So when you're creating, when you're manifesting and you're creating, you're in the upper world, and that's even higher than the middle world. I know this is quite confusing, but I'm going to try and simplify it in a minute. And then the highest vibration is what you just described then. You're connected to everything. Everything is connected to you. Yeah, you are the Buddha. You are Christ consciousness, if you want to put it, or whatever, ascended master. And you can connect with that when you're alive. You can connect with that vibration, but it's very difficult to connect with it for a long time. And actually, in the Altai tradition, they believe that is why we keep getting reincarnated, because the ultimate goal is to be able to reach collectively to that vibration where we recognize that we're all one, and that you are a drop in the ocean, but you're also the ocean, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to ask you a question now. Another one. Have you ever been in love, Adrian?
I like to think so.
Right. So that feeling, I think nearly everybody knows that feeling of being in love. And when you're in love and you feel that you're loved back, and, you can sense that, then you are literally, you can love everybody then, because you are totally, I think, absorbed in that spirit of love. So everything you do is love. Everything you say is love. So I think we suffer. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts on this. But my belief is that I think we suffer if we are not in this constant union of love, this ocean of love. And anything that takes us further from that loving feeling is what gives mental illness, what gives us grief and suffering. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
So, you're right. I mean, so I'm just going to kind of like lay a little bit of a map out. So basically, the idea is that there's these four worlds that we spoke about. The world that you're talking about is Mother Earth. Yeah, that's the world of love, happiness. But there's these other qualities, these other spirits that are needed. So actually, when I talk about the underworld, it's a place of sickness, and it's a place of suffering. But also, if that wasn't there, you wouldn't have transformation, because you need that energy there. You need the spirit of discomfort in your life. Discomfort says to you, you're hungry, go eat. Discomfort says to you, you need to get up and start exercising. Yeah, like that's so these negative spirits are actually, they're not all negative. It's kind of like you need them there for that transformation, so that we learn and we evolve. Like, so things happen to you, and then you look back and you go, okay, let's say you was in a relationship and you broke up, and you're crying, you're suffering, you're in the underworld, you've withdrawn, you're not socializing anymore, you've gone into yourself. And that's another thing. When we go into the underworld, we always go into ourselves. Yeah. The energy spirals inwards. And what you're doing is you're going inwards. And the reason you go inwards is because you need to learn what happened. Okay, how did I get here? Why am I here? How, like, what do I need to change? Do I need to change anything? And then from that place, you can then sort of rise up again, back into what the shamans call the middle world. And so it's important that we have those spirits, because actually they help us to grow and evolve. But what's happening on the global scale at the moment is we're not learning from our lessons. Yeah. if you look at humanity, it's not learning from its lessons. We need to learn from our lessons. Otherwise, we're going to keep repeating the same thing again and again and again. The whole point of there being that energy of transformation is that you learn and then you change. And if humanity doesn't learn, then it's just going to keep repeating the same thing again and again and again.
And what hasn't it learned?
And that's why there is so much suffering in the world. You know, there's so much suffering in the world, and well, just its relationship with nature. I mean, we're making progress. It looks like it, but it's something extremely slow. You know, we've got to start to understand that we're not separate from nature. We are a part of nature, and that we need Mother Earth. We need the animals. You know, they bring us joy. They bring us good spirits. You know, if you sit down in a field and you listen to the stream heals you. It helps to heal you. You know, what would the world be like if there wasn't no bird song? You know, what would the world be like if every ocean and river was polluted and black? You know, it'd be a horrible place to live in. And, you know, nature is the reason we call it Mother Earth is because it has a very feminine energy to it. You know, she provides you food, she provides you fruit, she provides you vegetables, you know, she provides herbs that help heal you. So she's providing you all of this stuff. You know, she's like, here you go, have this, have that. You know, and yet we seem to have become extremely disconnected from our environment. And that's a dangerous place to be in, because when you see nature as the enemy, we're going to end up killing ourselves ultimately. And Mother Earth will be fine. She'll just go on and on and on. But obviously it's us that we can't seem to learn from our lessons. You know, we've got to change. We have to start to change. And
what does that change involve?
Becoming more conscious. I think becoming more conscious and aware, and just come to the realization and understanding that, like, you are a part of this earth. You deserve to be here. You know, you're a part of this experience. You couldn't ask for a more, you know, what more is there than being alive? There isn't. If I said to you, dream of a more wilder dream, I want you to create a more wilder dream than the experience of being on the earth. You couldn't do it. Yeah, it's impossible. Like, you've already arrived. Like, this is the temple. You don't need a book to show you the way. You don't need a prophet to show you the way, because you're already in the temple. Like, this is it. You've arrived. Just look around, go into nature, sit there, listen to the birds, smell the flowers, like, listen to the stream. Like, this is it. You've arrived. Like, this is what you're looking for. It's here. You're just not paying attention. You know, you just need to pay attention. And ultimately, we just need to, to develop a relationship with nature again, you know, and care, open up our hearts, a little bit more compassion, a little bit more empathy for one another as well. Yeah, that's another thing. I see so many people judging one another, and it's got to stop. You know, this constant judgment. I see it all the time. I see it with spiritual people as well, you know, and they'll judge other people for not being awakened and this and that. And the more we do that, the more divided we become.
I mean, Adrian, with regards to what is going on in the world, I'm not wise enough, I have to say, I can just hazard a guess, but I can definitely say what's going on in my world. And I think unless we go inside of ourselves and in fact, do that, build a relationship with our own self and respect ourselves. We can never do that outside of ourselves because it would be unfamiliar and strange. So I think for me, and this is just my viewpoint, I could be totally wrong on this, is that what the world is showing right now, for me, I have to say on a personal level, is that people are lost.
Yes.
And they, I've spoken about this before, I've written about this, but people are lost and they're looking to some external force, I don't know, influence to save them, to, it's like in the olden times, if we say like the golden calf, you're worshipping something that in fact is actually going to be your demise. It's not going to be your savior, because the only savior is for you to go back to yourself, go back to your heart and connect to that. I don't think there's another answer, because I know you spoke about prophets and Buddha and that, and I think they have a place for sure, because they came to teach the people and to remind people of these beautiful qualities of love and of nature and of being in our true nature. But now I don't see anybody out there that's really leading anyone into the light.
No,
as such.
I agree. And I agree with it starts with the inner world. Yeah. You've got because what you've got to remember is everything that's going on is a reflection of everything that's going on within us. Yeah. We're like a mirror.
I believe that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So everything is just a reflection. So of ourselves. And ultimately we're kind of, shamans would say, we're dreaming this world into being. Like if we change our perspective and our belief systems, then we can dream, a different world into being. Like it's all depending on your beliefs and your perception of the world. And obviously there's quite a few people that sort of just view the earth as this thing, it's just resources. Do you know what I mean? Let's just take this and take that and just, and so you're seeing the kind of result of that. And it's not working, it's not a good place to be in. So you've obviously got to shift that perspective. But, the warrior inside, the enemies inside ourselves are, fear of your own emotions, your own feelings, and you've got to confront them. Closed mind, that's another enemy that's within us, is having a closed mind, because when your mind's closed you can't learn new things. Fear of your own power, that's a big one. People fear their own power. They want to change, they want to do something that they're like, poor little old me, I can't do it, I'm just little old me. And that sort of fear of their own power. So it does start within us, and we have to confront these enemies that are within us first, which is, like I said, fear of your emotions, your feelings. That's most of the time that's the past. A lot of past stuff. If you've had a traumatic childhood, you've got to deal with that, look at that, heal that. Fear the closed mind, having a closed mind, keep an open mind so you can learn new things. And fear of your own power, how powerful can you be if you followed your dreams and really done what you wanted to do?
So how do we do that? How do we let go of this fear, Adrian, and grasp our power back? Because in a way, we are somehow, I think, in a trance.
Yeah, we are.
If you look at people, if you look at everybody, we're all somehow in our crazy trance, me included. There are moments when we're all in this sort of, I don't know what place. And that's not helpful. And that is actually going to be the demise of humanity.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I'm going to talk straight up with you. We have been, and sometimes I feel, oh, should I say this or should I not say this? But actually, we are under a mass hypnosis. We've been under a mass hypnosis for a long time. We're in a deep trance, and a lot of that trance is coming from our TV sets and our phones, and we're just hypnotized by everything that's on these devices, and we've become completely disconnected from our outside environment. How many of us go outside at night and look up at the beautiful stars every night?
I do.
Oh, you do? Well done. That's good. Yeah. So you do, right?
But I get the gist. Yeah.
How does that feel?
Fantastic. Every single night without fail, it's my thing since being a child. And I look for the stars, I look for the moon, and sometimes it's cloudy. And no matter where I have lived in the world, I have always done that, because somehow looking to the skies, it just reminds you that you are part of infinity.
Yes. And do you know what? If you speak to most people, they will say that they get the exact same experience. So when I said about, these kind of like elements, like working with the elements, it's the same thing. You sit someone next to a roaring fire, they're going to start to feel the same thing. The same as when we all go out and we look up at the night sky. Most people start to think, what am I worried about? I'm just, do you know what I mean? There's something so much bigger than me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And all these little problems that are going on in my, and so we're connecting with the environment, and we're receiving these feelings and these kind of information, if you want to call it that. We're receiving the same kind of information. Go sit with the ocean. How do you feel? Like, what kind of information do you get from the ocean? And where we've become so sort of hypnotized and entranced by this kind of circus that is the media, we've become disconnected from these organic technology, if you want, nature. And that's one of my tips for beginning your healing journey is to just reconnect with nature, reconnect with Mother Earth, go for a walk, sit down, just reconnect, start to introduce the elements back into your life, looking up at the night sky, all these things, and you connect with something else, and it's so powerful, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and it really does start to heal you and heal your soul as well. That's another thing. You feel your soul getting nurtured and cleansed when you do that.
That's important, isn't it? To have respect for one's soul.
Yeah, because you think about all the things that you're exposed to through the TV, through social media. You're constantly being bombarded with images, with just all sorts of things, people's life stories. But actually, you don't need to carry all of that. We call it spiritual baggage. You don't need to carry all of that. It's a lot of stuff to be taken in, and it's there's a huge desensitization that happens. When you're exposed to violent images all the time, like you do on the news, and that you're constantly exposed to that. It's back in the day, most people, if they saw someone being shot, they would be really distraught and like, wow, we've got to do something about this. Do you know what I mean? And now you see it on the news and it's, it's just another person shot or whatever it is, and our souls are becoming desensitized. And this has been, once you start to connect with nature, you'll start to recognize and realize what is good for you and what isn't. But the first step is to reconnect with nature. I spent pretty much 4 or 5 months in nature. And when I was in nature, there was no one to call my name. There was no TV, no nothing. And it was like I was in paradise. I felt like I was in heaven. Like
You
listening
have
to the
said
birds.
such an incredible line there, Adrian. There was no one to call my name.
There was no one to call
What
my
a
name.
line. What a line that is.
Yeah. There was no one to call my name. So even that label, Adrian. So your identity, basically what happens is it's almost like your identity starts to change because you recognize that you're a part of it all, and and there's that sort of these labels that separate us all the time as well, right? All these different labels. I had an experience that was beyond. I don't know how I could describe it because I had an experience where I was able to look at everything without attaching a label to it. And it was like I was experiencing magic. But that's the only way I can describe it. I looked up at the sky. Now I'm labeling it now, but when I looked up at the night sky and the moon was there, but I wasn't labeling anything. I no longer had a label, and it was all one. And it was pure magic. And I was like, this is magic. This is magic. But we've become separated from it because we put labels to everything and we've boxed everything up in little neat boxes and we've gone, oh, this is it. And so we think that we've made sense of everything. But actually you're not experiencing it. When you label everything into boxes, you actually miss the experience because the labels are actually directing you to somewhere else, if that makes sense.
I mean, it becomes in a way nonsense.
Yeah.
Even to label things because they are vibrating at their own speed and at their own energy, and somehow when you lose that attachment to this world and enter into that state, you become part of everything that is vibrating.
Yes. There is it's almost like the inner and the outer world merge. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like they merge.
It's like music, isn't it? When you're listening to music and let's take classical music just as an example, or somehow you can get moments where you are totally transported somewhere and you become part of that music. Everything else ceases to matter, to exist, and you are just part of that moment with music.
Yes. Yeah. And then you return and you go, oh, I've got a body and my name is Adrian. And, oh, I'm here. Oh,
absolutely that. Oh, and I've got shoes on.
Yeah, I've got shoes. Oh, I'm hungry. I've got these bodily sensations. I've got to eat now.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's so weird. And it's like, oh, well, who am I today? Oh, yeah. I'm Mimi or I'm Adrian, and that's the role I'm playing here on Earth. But it is all really momentary and, in fact, not really reality.
No, I mean, there's so many. Yeah, I could talk for hours. I really could because there's so many amazing experiences that you can have when you step outside the box a little and start changing your perspective.
But you're going to come back again, aren't you? And we're going to talk about that if you do me the honor to come back and share some of those experiences.
Yeah,
because that would be wonderful to hear. Because when we hear these types of things, but give us, if you can, if you wouldn't mind, give us one experience so that people can get a taste. Because sometimes when you hear something from someone else that they've experienced, it can remind you of something that you had forgotten that's beautiful and magical.
So you want me to give sorry, say that again?
Yeah, if you could give us something that you would be kind enough to share with us, something that in your life has been transformational as an experience that you can share. Something magical.
Something magical.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of my life is quite magical, to be honest, because I look at everything as a form of magic in a strange roundabout way. But I had an experience. I did have an experience once, but this was on ayahuasca, which is a visionary plant. So it was induced. But I went to a place where it was unconditional love, and I hadn't felt that. I hadn't felt unconditional love in. I don't know if I ever felt it. I mean, like, the way that I felt it was just to every cell of my body, and I cried my eyes out because that experience of love was so powerful. It wasn't earthly. It was something which I would say that's the closest that I've got to say a God. You know when you say God loves you unconditionally.
Yeah.
That was the closest I think that I've ever been to a place like that. And it was pure unconditional love, and everything, my whole life didn't matter anymore. All that mattered was love. And it brought me to tears. And even days afterwards, when I thought about that experience, it would just bring me to tears. And I just went around saying, I'm loved. I'm loved. You're loved. And it was, I mean, talk about a transformational experience. A bit like going back to when you say when you're in love, when you've ever been in love, and then it's a lot easier to kind of spread that love, I suppose, because you're in that vibration. So you've got that spirit with you, and so it's like and it was powerful. And even today, when I think about that experience, and then for those of you that don't know what ayahuasca is, basically it's a plant. It's a visionary plant. It's been used in the jungle for thousands of years. And it's a healing plant, and it's used to help people confront their fears, traumas, and it basically heals you. But my experience with it was I basically went to this place that was beautiful. It was all different. It was like beautiful reds and pinks, and I saw these beings that came forward, and they started waving at me and winking me, and they were like they were basically welcoming me back. They were welcoming me home. That's the only way I could describe it. And I just felt like I was home, and that I'd left everything behind on earth. And it was almost like, don't worry, it's all over. All that stuff on earth is over now. You're home now, and this home is unconditional love. And it was like, wow. And I just cried my eyes out for days. And as I come to, I had all these people around me going, you're right. So I cried my eyes out. I'm loved. I was really crying. I was like, and that's exactly the healing that I needed at that time as well, which was, amazing. Because that's what I needed. I needed to reconnect with the spirit of unconditional love. And that's what I got from that experience. It was very, very powerful, extremely powerful. But for me,
sounds amazing.
I think for me, the best vibration for me is what we call the upper world. So it's when you're creating, when you're connecting with your head, and you're taking ideas and images, and then you start to manifest them, and you start to create them. That to me is really, that's when I feel like I'm in alignment. That's when it's like, yes, this is what you're meant to be doing, or this is, and it's a very high vibration. You feel amazing because you're taking, the non-physical, you're turning it, you're materializing it, you're making it into the physical. So that when I'm connected with the upper world, so to speak, that's when I think I'm that's the best vibration for me. That and Mother Earth, you know, when I'm love, harmony, happiness, joy, and then when I'm creating, when I'm manifesting, that's powerful. When you start to manifest and you start to see, you know, things coming at the right time, and you know, that's a really, really powerful feeling. Wow, you know, you have this ability to take things out of your mind and manifest them. I mean, you literally are a creator.
It's a wonderful feeling. And for people out there that are listening, Adrian, what could you give as some tips to start this journey of reconnecting back to themselves?
Okay, so the first thing we teach people, or I teach people specifically, is how to pray. And it's not how you've been taught. It's not like you beg. You know, a lot of people in the West, they say, please, please, can I have this, please, as if you're somehow undeserving of it. That's very disempowering. Like you are deserving of an amazing life. Everyone is. So the way shamans pray, and I have to say, like, this has been noted in all different places around the world, even though they weren't connected, is you put your hand on your heart and you give thanks to things that you have in the present moment. And you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so, so much. Thank you so much. And as soon as I'm smiling heart right now, and as soon as you do it, you feel your heart activate. You'll feel it powering up. I kid you not. Anyone can try this. You will feel your heart start to expand. Yeah, and I believe that this is my belief. I believe it's the magnetic field. Yeah, and you're expanding it. And you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you. And it could be anything in the present. It can be friends. It can be material things. It doesn't really matter. It could be your health. It's just things in the present. And you say, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to do this amazing podcast with this beautiful woman, because it gives me a chance to talk about things that I'm passionate about. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Right? And just list 3 or 4 or 5 things a day in the present that you're grateful for. And then the important part is to say why you're grateful for it. So thank you so much for this, because that gives it extra power. And you can change if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling sad. I don't care how much you're suffering. If you do that in this moment, I promise you now, you're going to get better. Yeah, that's my promise. I promise you. You can. It doesn't matter where you are. You know, you can be suicidal. You can be. Put your hand on your heart. Start to list things in the present. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. List the reasons why. Because I mean, in the shamanic tradition, you know, you would say thank you, Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is the present moment as well. So it's like thank you, Mother Earth, so much for this, because, and that is just that will begin your healing process immediately. And you'll start to get better. And then the next thing is just go out into nature. Go for walks. Become enchanted again. Become enchanted with the magic, because it is all magical. So just step out into nature. Become enchanted. Listen to the stream. Don't just walk past it. If you come across a stream, stop, close your eyes and listen. If you come across loads of birds singing, stop, close your eyes, listen. Yeah, and nature will begin to heal you. I can promise you that. There's been studies, you know, nature walks boosts our immune systems. They literally boost our immune. The whole COVID thing came out. The first thing I'd done was went straight into nature every day. I was in nature. And you know, if you spend time in nature, it's the equivalent of, you know, when you get out of a hot bath, and you're like, you feel like that. You feel so relaxed afterwards. It lowers your cortisol. It lowers your stress levels. and it's free. You haven't got to pay for this. Like, it's out there. You've got your prayer, you've got nature that will help heal you.
It's revitalizing, isn't it? It's like a new wind of life.
Yeah, it's all there for you. It's like, and then it's right there. It's right there. You just got to make the effort and go out and connect with it.
And love yourself enough to give yourself that respect to start this journey.
Most people feel that they're a bad person in one way or the other. And because bad things happen to people, and sometimes people do bad things, basically their soul, they can't feel their soul anymore. And it's almost like they're covered in a mist, and everyone has a beautiful soul. Everyone has a beautiful soul. You've got a beautiful soul. You was born with a beautiful soul. The world might have brought negativity to you. It might have brought traumatic experiences, but you was born with a pure soul. And we all was.
True.
And you don't come into the world negative. You come into the world as a beautiful little baby, a bundle of joy. And unfortunately, the world can bring negative experiences to you, but you are not those experiences, and reconnect with your soul, and nature helps to do that as well. Like, nature helps you to reconnect with who you really are. You start to feel that. You start to feel good again,
It's very true. It's very true, Adrian, because I know that I'm a great fan of nature. And for me, it has saved my life many a times because it just makes sense. It makes sense of who I am, of the world around me, of everything, whether it be the sky, whether it be the woods, whether it be the streams, whether it be indeed the mountains. It's something that is a reminder energetically of who we are, and also a reminder, I feel, it always reminds me of what my purpose is.
Yes. Actually, one of the best things you can do if you're struggling to know what your purpose is or your destiny, fasting. Okay, fasting is really, really powerful. Fasting and spending time out in nature, and you will receive your destiny. You'll receive it. I promise you that. You'll receive your destiny. Fasting is a really powerful healer. When any animal gets seriously sick, or human being, we stop eating. And the reason we stop eating is because when we fast, our body eventually goes into this state. I think it's called autophagy, I think, or something like that. And basically it starts to, the cells start to renew. Yeah. So it's really powerful. But also what fasting does is it connects you with something that's really powerful, like something that's higher than you. You might want to say, like, I don't know, your higher consciousness or something. When you haven't got the distraction of food in the way, something happens, something really powerful happens. And if you go out into nature as well, whilst fasting, you're going to be a really clear channel. You're going to be really open and clear to information from nature. And it's the perfect setting, I believe, to receive your destiny, your calling, whatever that may be. And it might just come in the form of an image. It might come in the form of just a knowing, but you'll receive it one way or the other. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm a great believer also in fasting, because I think that at that point of when the body is not busy with trying to work with what you have eaten, talking very simplistically now for people to understand, it has the ability then for all our cells, everything that is within us, to be raised on a higher level, because it becomes more receptive. All of that is out of the way, and you are then able to receive, and especially, as you say, in nature, the message and the antenna is clearer, and you can receive the messages, I think, far quicker.
Yes.
Than when you're sort of, well, I've eaten this or I've drank this, and and you feel all stodgy or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you can be crystal clear in your mind when you are on, I believe in intermittent fasting. I don't know what you think about this, but because it really does detox on so many levels, the body and the spirit.
Yeah, I mean, shamans always fast a lot, and it's one of the quickest ways to connect with that kind of higher consciousness. And sometimes they'll do like a 40-day fast, which obviously is a lot for a beginner. Do you know what I mean? I haven't even managed a 40-day fast, but sometimes they'll do a 40-day fast, or sometimes they'll do a week fast, or sometimes they'll do 1 day on, 1 day off, just for a small amount of time. I recommend fasting to everyone. Obviously, intermediate fasting, like you was talking about, is a lot more accessible for the West, because we are sort of running around like headless chickens most of the time. But you know what's interesting? You say to someone, I want you to skip breakfast, and they'll go, oh no, I can't do that. Can't do that. You say, what do you mean I can't do that? No, I can't do that. Well, that's what we that just goes to show how much fear is around, because
it's true.
it's breakfast. Yeah, but I've been told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's like, well, actually, studies are showing that you don't need breakfast. That you can function extremely well, if not better, without it. No, I've got to have breakfast. Well, that's fear. And that's also attachment. Fear and attachments come hand in hand.
Yeah, it's very true, actually, because I don't know if you've heard this story, but it was the story of, and apologies to people who know this story, and I'm not, relaying it back, but it was about the ego, and how, the ego, they say that the ego shouldn't ride us, but we should ride the ego. And that's all sort of, all the great masters of time have said that. And it's talking about food, because the base desires are all with the ego. And it would, apparently the ego was put in front of God and was tested, and it said, am I your Lord, or are you the Lord? And the ego would each time say, well, I am, I'm the best, there's no one better than me. And it was put through fire, like thousands of years through fire. And it was asked the question, who is your Lord? Is it me or is it you? And it would consistently, fire, water, sleep, whatever, who is your Lord? And the ego would say, well, it's me. And it went through thousands of years like that. And then finally, God said, apparently, I have to add, you are not to eat. And the ego was in total shock. And they said, you're not going to eat now. And the ego became very subdued. And it said, now you are going to fast for 7,000 years. The ego fasted for 7,000 years and came back again. And God said, who is your Lord? Is it me or is it you? And it said, you are. Because it realized that it's powerless. And it's, in fact, food or whatever we feed, you were talking about your spirits earlier, whatever you feed, whether that be food or drink or emotions, that is what you give power to.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing, that's what, the difference between us and animals is, animals sort of, when they're hungry, they eat. And what we're able to do is say, I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat. I'm going to fast. An animal can't do that. We can. Now, that doesn't mean we're better than the animals. I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to say is that shows that there is a higher consciousness, there is a higher, awareness that we can actually be able to overcome our instincts, and say, oh no, actually, I'm going to fast. I'm going to do that. So we have the ability to do that. I mean, that's incredible, right?
Yeah, I think that's incredible. Power of the freedom that we have as a soul to be able to have been granted that we can say, no, I'm not going to eat, or I'm not going to do that. I suppose that also comes through self-mastery and self-discipline.
Yes. And that's the other thing that fasting teaches you. It really teaches you how much willpower you have and how strong you really are. And that's a powerful, valuable lesson.
True. Yeah.
Especially if you're lacking in willpower. I mean, that's a great way to start. A great way to start is to start a little bit of fasting, skip breakfast. And you get through that and you think, okay, and it kind of like gives you a bit of a boost. Well, if I can do that, that maybe I can do that project that I've been putting off for so long, or whatever it may be,
I mean, health permitting, of course, because there'll be people out there who simply can't because of their health.
Sorry.
Go ahead. But
yeah, go on.
Yeah, but a lot of illnesses can actually be cured through fasting, can't they?
Yeah, as well as mental illness as well. There's studies that people that have had bipolar and depression and schizophrenia and all sorts. This is quite, I think, might be the 1950s or 60s, these studies. Quite old, but studies have been published and people have been cured of these things. I was just talking about illness. I just want to say that herbal medicine is effective. Yeah.
I have to hear this, what you're going to say now. I'm intrigued what you're going to say.
And that always keep an open mind when it comes, if you get ill, keep an open mind, do your research and look into herbal medicine, because honestly, there's herbs out there that are absolutely amazing. If you've got anxiety, if you can't sleep, there's certain herbs that are so powerful that work. And a lot of people think, oh yeah, but how can it? This is where we've become so disconnected. How can it? It's a herb, it's a plant, it's chemistry. It is chemistry at the end of the day. And I really am, I with hand on my heart, I truly believe that there is a herb for everything. Honestly, a herb for
I'm
everything.
in that club as well, Adrian. I totally believe that for every illness there is a cure, apart from death.
Apart from death.
Then that's destiny, I suppose. That's another story altogether.
Yeah.
But you talk about anxiety. I just want to ask you, people through the ages have had anxiety, and especially now this whole fear thing that's going on. I'm afraid, I'm scared. I'm scared of this, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that, I'm scared of that. Do you have any sort of herbs that you could recommend at all?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to talk about the nature of the spirit of fear. So the spirit of fear, there's two types of fear. One is small fear, which is instinctual. Yeah. So it happens in the present moment. So it's like, okay, there's a lorry coming in the road, I need to step out the way. Yeah, that's your instinctual fear. And we say that comes from Mother Earth because she's trying to protect all creation. Yeah. And so that's why you've been given that gift, which is your instinctual fear. And then you've got big fear, which we say comes from the underworld. And this fear it acts like a prison. Yeah. So rather than helping you, it hinders you. So it could be, I really want to travel the world, but I'm afraid that the plane's going to crash, or I'm afraid of flying. So what does it do? It stops you from ever traveling the world. So it acts like a prison. Or I want to get in a relationship, but I'm afraid of having my heart broken. So it stops you from getting into a relationship. So there's two types of fear. There's small fear, which comes from Mother Earth. It's instinctual. It's there to protect you. And then there's big fear, which comes from what we call the underworld. And it acts like a prison. So it stops you from living your life, so to speak. And most of the time that fear will come from the past because it's connected with the underworld. So it's coming from the past. It's coming from experiences that you've had in the past. It's not coming from the present moment. As for anxiety, the best herb I know, I've used it myself. So it's called Ashwagandha.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, ashwagandha it works from the GABA receptor sites, the same as these pharmaceutical drugs do, but it's a plant. And I mean, I think maybe non-addictive. Probably the worst side effect could be maybe upset stomach if it doesn't agree with you. But you know, another thing I want to say as well is my friend. He worked in the Royal Pharmacy of London, and he was sort of explaining to me the pharmaceuticals, obviously, they have their place, but they work almost instantly, which is why we people tend to want that, because it's like, I want it, you know, like, whereas the herbal medicine can sometimes take a little bit longer to kick in, but that's because it's working with your system. It's not shocking your system. It's kind of like gently, you know, maybe like upping your brain chemistry or whatever it may be. But yeah, so the herbal medicine, ashwagandha, it lowers cortisol, it lowers stress hormones, it releases or it binds to the GABA receptor sites, I can't remember which one, which basically means that it relaxes you, and it's an anti-anxiety. And there's loads. You've got the herb of enlightenment, Gotu Kola. That's another beautiful herb.
What about natural antibiotics and natural immune herbs that help protect the immune system?
I think ashwagandha is good for your immune system as well, if I remember rightly. But also turmeric. I believe turmeric is good.
That's a favourite. Yeah.
Yeah, turmeric's really good. There's honestly, we're lucky because we've got information at the tip of our, in our hands. You know, everyone's holding this device. You've got the choice now to do your own research and, you know, look into it, you know, look at the studies, read the studies. And yeah, there's so many different herbs. You know, all you've got to do is type in herbs that boost your immune system, you know, and it will come up a load of stuff. But with the immune system, remember, nature boosts the immune system. Going for walks in nature, the trees, that helps boost the immune system. So getting out and about, going to bed at a reasonable time, you know, basic stuff. I think I read somewhere, said if you go to bed early, doesn't matter what time you wake up, you'll feel refreshed. But if you go to bed late, doesn't matter what time you wake up, you'll feel tired. In my own experience, that's true. You know, I can go to bed at midnight and have a good 8 hours, but I'll wake up and I'm still tired. If I go to bed at 10, wake up at 5 or 6, I'll feel refreshed. You know, because you want to go to bed as you're getting tired, as you're starting to feel tired. But yeah, so remember, anxiety is just coming from fear, and it's coming from that the big fear, the irrational fear, and that would be something that's happened in the past, some sort of trauma, maybe something. That's where it's stemming from. The irrational fear is coming from an experience that you've had in the past somewhere. That's why when I teach people shamanism, you know, the first thing we do is we heal the past. You go back and you heal the past, and you look at things you may have lost. When someone suffers a traumatic experience, they might have lost the spirit of courage or the spirit of confidence. You know, let's say someone's had an accident and they've now got an extremely visible scar, across their face or something. And before that accident, they were confident. After that accident, they're no longer confident. So they've lost that spirit. So it's my job to then reconnect them with that spirit of confidence. And so we have to cleanse our past. We have to go in there. Don't be afraid to look at the dark. Don't be afraid to face, the darkness, the uncomfortable emotions. And then we cleanse that. And then we start to raise your vibration up and up and up and up and up, back into the present, connect you with nature, with love, with harmony, with beauty. And then we can start concentrating on your future, the upper world, what you want to manifest, what you want to bring into vision, your destiny, and all those things. A good symbol is the tree, the world tree or the tree of life. The underworld is the roots, the branch is Mother Earth, is the present. So the underworld is the past. The branch is, the trunk. Sorry, not the branch. The trunk is the present, and the branches are the upper world, the future, past, present, future. And you're always in one of those worlds. You're either in the present creating your future, or you're fully in the manifestation process and you're creating and you're manifesting and you're in the upper world. When you're suffering, you're in the underworld, you're in the past. It's all to do with the past.
Now, as we come to the end, and we could talk for ages because it's so interesting, Adrian, but unfortunately, as we come to the end of the episode, I want to ask you about where can people get hold of you and receive these treatments, and that you can help them. Where is the place that you can be contacted?
I have a page on Facebook called Pure Shamanic Dreams. My Facebook page is Adrian Greatbear. I've got an Instagram page. Oh, my website is also on my Facebook page. And
what's the website address?
I believe it's www.pureshamanic.dreams.com. It should be on my Facebook as well. But what my plans are, I'm just finishing filming a course which basically explains everything. The map, the inner map, which explains the underworld, middle world, the upper world, and the highest vibration. Explains all the healing techniques, everything you need to know. So I'm just finishing that course off. That'll be ready by next month. And then I'm going to travel around England because of the whole COVID situation. I was traveling when the whole COVID situation happened, and I had my drum with me, my shamanic bits, and I was just doing healings as I went. So because of that, I'm probably going to be in England for a little while, and I'm going to basically be holding some more events and workshops and stuff like that. So that will be advertised on my website, my Pure Shamanic Dreams page. So
there's a plan there, but people can also contact you for a one-to-one healing, a one-to-one session. Is that right?
I am doing online healings, which are really, really good, actually, really powerful. I prefer to do one-to-one healing in nature. But obviously, because of the whole pandemic thing, I've kind of had to go online. But it's actually worked really, really well, like really, really well.
Excellent.
Which is nice.
That's very good news that people are interested as well, in their own sort of health and well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Adrian.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's been so fascinating and so interesting to talk to you and for you to share so much of your knowledge with everybody.
it's very complex. Well, it's not that complex, but it's hard to talk about. It's so much more easier to sort of present it with images and you know, like especially when I'm talking about the shamanic map and the upper world and the lower world and stuff like that, because a lot of people probably think, what the hell is he talking about? But trust me, it all makes sense when you see it symbolically. You're like, aha, I get it, and then you can start to kind of understand it a little bit more and better. But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, and yes, I hope you've learned something or got something from it.
I've definitely learned loads, and I'm going to think about the things that you've spoken about, because there's a lot to be said, and it is very intricate and it's very deep what you spoke about, and people can sort of dip in and out of it and go according to their own realization of life. You know, it's not something for everyone that's listening. You know, sometimes when we're given all this sort of wisdom and advice and information, it can be overwhelming. But it's, you know, it's something that you don't have to listen to all at once. You can sort of dip in and out of it and go back to it, because that's how we learn, isn't it? Everyone learns at a different pace. But I ask my guests this, Adrian, always, a couple of lines from you that's helped you in your life to, you know, tell people out there not to lose hope in life. That's an important one.
So this is what I would say. If you're feeling, you know, if you're down in the underworld and you're feeling what's it all about, and just remember that you have a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I promise you now that there's always a brighter day. If if I can get myself out of the underworld, if I can get myself from where I was to where I am now, then, you know, there's hope for everybody. And yeah, don't give up. Do not give up. You've got a beautiful soul. You just need to reconnect with it again. Don't lose hope. Remember that we're on a journey. We're all on a journey. All our souls are on a journey, and we're here to learn. That's it. We're here to learn our lessons, and we're here to grow and evolve, and we're here to hopefully reach the highest state of consciousness, collective consciousness eventually. Might take a few lifetimes, but hopefully we'll get there.
Beautiful. But as you said, we're not coming back, but never mind. We might not get a choice in that, but thank you so much, Adrian. Really beautiful, really. And it fills me with joy to listen to somebody who is so connected with their own spirit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And
Come again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, and share maybe some more tips and sort of recipes, and, you know, for a happier, joyful, and, you know, more conscious life. That would be beautiful.
Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. That's it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's your prayer.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. All right. Take care.
All right. Lots of love.
And you. Bye.
Adrian Greatbear. Always fascinating to hear people's experiences of the journeys towards reconnection with our soul. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I wish you beautiful moments and wonderful times. Until next time, take care and lots of love.
Thank you for listening to Secrets for an Inspirational Life, brought to you by your host, Mimi Novic. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, and see you in the next episode. For more information about Mimi Novic and her books, music, and inspirational work, take a look at her website, www.miminovic.co.uk.